Was there anything good? Like I want to get into the bad parts about being in the public eye when you're little, because it can destroy people. Like you see it from the sidelines. So what were the good parts? It's a long pause.
A moment of silence. The good parts were, I mean, I think it did teach me a good work ethic. I think, I don't have to be asked twice to do anything. I think I'm really self-motivated and driven. And then I made some good friends. I made some really good friends. And also, you know what? I think there's more. I think it's like what I'm doing now, writing and directing is adjacent, and I don't know what I would have done otherwise. So who's to say? But I do think that it's helpful to have, I already kind of have a somewhat of a running start on this career, because I know the industry kind of works somewhat like this, although it's very different as an actor. Because as an actor, everybody kind of babies you and treats you like, oh, they can't know anything because they're sensitive, and like nobody tells you anything. So it's sort of like it's definitely a more narrow point of view, I think, to be an actor in the entertainment industry, but it's also adjacent. I think it was helpful in terms of like switching to the career that I wanted to switch to. Yeah,
so that's fair. What about the bad parts? That sounds easier.
It certainly is. Bad parts, I mean, there's a lot of abuse that happens. I worked with an incredibly emotionally abusive producer. Even talking about it now, my face gets hot thinking of it, just because he'd say things like, you would work at Yogurtland if you didn't work for me. And he would just scream.
How old were you?
I was, when I started the show, I was 13.
Does Yogurtland even hire people when they're 13? Is that even a reasonable thing to say?
The real questions. Thank you. Exactly. It's like, he was like a comically, like the bad teacher or whatever you would expect in like an over the top broad family comedy. That's what he seemed like, very villainous and almost like mustache twirly in his kind of personality. So there's just like, and there's abuse, which is a very on the nose bad. And then there's also, I think it leads to a sense of entitlement, where it's like, if you have so much at a young age, you think that that's reality. Like my reality when I was 13 was that everybody cared what I had to say. My reality when I was 13 was that like people were interested in me just because I was on TV, not because I had interesting things to say, not because I was saying anything of merit or value. And I think it leads, or for me, I should say, it definitely led to this idea of like, well, things will just keep working out. It's like you don't have to try as hard and formulate your own opinions and your own point of view as much, because you just think, well, if I post this picture and it gets 500,000 likes, I must be great. It's like, let's tone it down. You're not that great, sweetheart. Let's get some garner some interesting things to say.
But I mean, that's got to be difficult to understand if you have a whole bunch of people watching you or recognizing you. I mean, when you went out on the street, you got approached, right?
I mean, it got to a level that was so intense. It would just, I mean, there's paparazzi and like clusters of people anywhere that's like like a public, a restaurant, like can't eat without people constantly there. It for me, it was really frustrating. I think for some people they can kind of, I don't think anybody's made for fame. Like, I don't think that there's anybody who's made to thrive in it, but I think there are some people that are more able to tolerate it, and are just like better equipped with their emotional and mental tools to handle it. And I don't think I was. And it just made me feel like I was going to explode all the time. I was so anxious.
Yeah. Well, having an anxiety disorder and then being approached all the time and being recognized everywhere sounds anxiety provoking.
Right. Not a recipe for success.
No. And I know that, I remember, I think it was Eminem. He came out with something and he got really angry at being approached at a restaurant or something. And me as a kid, I was just like, well, like that's kind of what you get for being in the pub. Like, I think there's a level of, don't want to say like resentment or anger for people looking in, but they're kind of like, well, you're a celebrity. Like, what do you expect? And then I know I've noticed through mainly being around my dad and I'm not putting any negativity there, because most people who approach him are really kind, and it's been overwhelmingly positive, but it's still like, sometimes when you're having dinner, it's like, I just want to have dinner. So
Sure.
it's weird. It's a weird situation.
Well, I'm curious about that too, because like with, you know, your dad specifically, but I would imagine, like, I mean, he's changed my life. I've done his self-authoring suite 3 times. I do it at the start of every year. Oh my God. I have given it as a gift to everybody that I know. I just think it's so helpful in terms of like getting you in check with yourself. And it's the most realistic approach to like accomplishing your goals and getting your life on track that I've ever seen. It's like, why would, you know what I mean? Why was I want everybody I know to do it.
Oh, that's cool to hear.
Yeah, I think it's so helpful. But so I would imagine like if I saw you down on the street or something, I would be approaching him for this thing that he's made, this thing that he's done. I resented fame. I really did, because it was like people were coming at me constantly for a thing that I was ashamed to be a part of. You know, I was on a show that I thought was trash. Like I just thought, this is so shitty. This is so bad. I don't want to go onto this overlit kids show set and like scream my lines and just like, whoa, Carly, like everything just felt just so ridiculous. So for me, it was like when people were constantly approaching me, it just felt like, God, about this dumb piece of trash that I don't even like. Why is this the big thing? Like it just felt so. I mean, I know that's super, I think it's a super unlikable thing to say, but it really is my experience.
No,
and,
it's just,
you know,
it's just kind of sad, right? I think I kind of get where you're coming from too, because for an actor too, you're portraying people who you aren't. So then you might be approached, I don't know, but you might be approached on the street from someone who treats you like the character you're portraying, whereas somebody like Dad wouldn't exactly have that happen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, people would come up to me. I played like kind of a punky teen on TV, a girl who had been to juvie. And at the time I was like 14, but seemed more like a 7-year-old emotionally. Like I was very emotionally underdeveloped. So people are coming up to me being like, hey, Sam, like, and I'm going, hi, like just a nervous wreck. And they're like, oh, you're not cool. Never mind.
Aw, man. That's sad.